All right, hello there, Justin Rondo here, and in this video I want to show you kind of the more visual representation of a split test report that we do here at Digital Marketer. So previously I had shown you kind of the Word doc, and you'll have access to a more refined version of that in your resources center as well as to this template. But what I like to do, especially with A/B tests, is that they're inherently visual, and people understand them a lot better from that kind of like A versus B mentality. And so, rather than just kind of giving that standard case study approach to it, I like to give a bit more weight and have these internal test reports be a bit more thorough. So I'll show you exactly what I do as well as share some of the tests we've run at Digital Marketer. It's just a handful of them. We do significantly more, but I don't want to bore you with just every little thing we've done from a split test perspective. All right, so let's take a look here. And so I generally start with a table of contents, and this will actually go multiple pages as you go throughout your year. And I break down the table of contents by the page location. Is it a home page? Is it a landing page? Sales letter, cart, blog, overlay, type, etc. So where is the test located? So I like to group them by that because that gives you a better understanding when you're doing a funnel analysis of kind of where you've been working, what's historically been a troubled area or a place that you focused most of your optimization efforts. All right, so after that, it's when you get into the test name. So the test name, I like to try and keep very descriptive, like this was a homepage CTA test, so call to action, below the fold image link test, below the fold new image test, those types of things. So be descriptive. You probably actually be more descriptive as you go on. The more descriptive you are, the better you'll understand it in the future. Okay, so let's go into the homepage tests here. And so this was a homepage CTA test, and then on the actual name of the test, I like to say the page URL, the test period, and then the metrics measured. All right, so this is a relatively straightforward test that was run for 2 weeks on the total clicks of 3 modules, which I'll show you the images of in a second. So the hypothesis here was that we believe that adding I want to copy for all visitors will increase clicks to the respective pages. All right. And so this is the short version of the hypothesis. There's a longer version of the hypothesis, as you know, that talks about and we will know this when we see X and attain feedback Y. All right, but in this case, I just wanted to kind of stick to the more action-oriented portion of the hypothesis. Okay, all right. So here are the test variations. It's on the DM homepage, which I think you're familiar with, where we have drive more traffic, boost conversions, increase engagement, and from basic copywriting strategies, especially on kind of clickable areas, we wanted to make them kind of own the action. So I want to drive more traffic. What are we speaking to? Something that they want, their desires. Okay, and so we were only measuring top funnel clicks. This was a very kind of top funnel oriented test to see if we can get people moving throughout our funnel. And so here's the results in detail. And so I use an Excel spreadsheet when I put my results in detail, and then I throw them into this as well, giving kind of the details. So control, there's our traffic, 2,964. I want copy, it had the 2,949. Clicks, 232 to 266. We saw a 7.83% lift with a plus or minus of 0.63 and a 9.02% lift at a 0.68% plus or minus. So that could go anywhere as into the mid 8 percentile as well as to the 9.7%. So there's a nice range there, but it's not super huge. We had enough of a sample size to be like, we're okay. It'll be somewhere within 8.5 to 9.5% lift. So we ended up seeing a 15.2% lift at a 95% confidence. And so we were pretty happy with that. We hit industry standard there, that there's still a 5% chance that the change is due to randomness, but it's that's what we're used to seeing when we're working with these types of tests. All right. So then I like to go into a results in short section. All right. So I have this spreadsheet and then as you'll see in some other examples, it gets quite massive, and people don't want to dig through that. So results in short, what'd you get? So results were 15.2% lift in total clicks at a 95% confidence rate. That's really what people want to see. And that's likely where your company stakeholders or your clients, that's where they're going to look. All right, they're not going to get into the weeds looking at the results in detail. They'll kind of just want the synopsis. What happened exactly? So that's likely where they're going to end looking at your test, but you can also start getting into some more details. So I like to be a bit more thorough. And so then I go into the analysis portion. And this is really, I wasn't terribly surprised by the test. Using ownership language generally increases conversion. The 3 modules account. So now you're going to get into kind of more information about the actual test. The 3 modules total account for about 10% of all the clicks on the page. And this actually isn't a major click point. So optimizing further really doesn't make much sense, okay? In these cases. So this actually kind of showed us like we don't need to stress our time on these kind of top level calls to action. People actually either scrolling through, are clicking through the blog, or are going to the login area. So other observations we found, our deeper content layout is getting clicks when it shouldn't. So the most interesting observation outside of the test scope comes from all the other clicks in the non-clickable areas. So you might not always fill in this other observations section because it might be a really straightforward test or nothing really that interesting happened outside of your test scope. But if it does, this is where you place it, and you kind of, I like to bold kind of the main takeaway there, all right? And other observations will likely turn into another iteration for a new test, okay? Here's some more observations that we saw, that even though these non-clickable regions are being clicked, we have done a great job getting the majority of people to click where they should be. So sign in accounted for 22% of all clicks on the page, blog 16%, product 16%, and members, which is another login area, got 18% of total clicks. So that's great. Like, people are using our header appropriately, but this also should keep us warning that if we're using the site template throughout other areas of the site where they have a strong call to action, that people might be clicking through on this area when they really shouldn't be. So it does what it should on a particular page, but actually might turn into a distractor, which is something to keep in mind for further iterations. So next steps. This is where you take the analysis and other observations and kind of really go and make a prescription. Because remember, as marketers, we should be prescribing what our clients should be doing. We should be prescribing where we should be going next in our marketing department. So obviously, generally the next steps are, make the winning variation live. And the only time this wouldn't be the case for kind of a global launch of making it live would be if you were doing highly segmented tests. So those would be, test on a different segment to see if scalable, all right? So then the next thing is, fix our non-clickable click problem, all right? So that actually feeds into our next test campaign that could be occurring because of what we learned here. And it actually did run into that. So we ran an EP image link test that ran for 5 weeks. And the reason this ran so much longer is because we wanted to look at actual purchases. So we were done after that of doing just kind of top funnel metrics. We wanted to know a bit more about how people were interacting with the site, all right? And this test was inspired from the ClickMac from the previous test. So our hypothesis was, we believe that adding a link to the DM Lab sales letter for all visitors will increase landing page views and DM Lab sales. So test variations, no link when clicked in the Facebook social list building area. That's all one image, and link to DM Lab offer. Okay, and this one was kind of a no-brainer. But now take a look at what we have here. Now, that initial example was a fairly straightforward, easy to consume spreadsheet, where now it's a bit more intense. So again, we break it down by variation A, variation B, traffic 10,975, 10,867, landing page visits. So this was the click-through 1,877, 2,000. So 1,877 people found their way to that landing page without a link there, where 2,375 did with it there, all right? So the relative lift there was 27.8% at 99.9% confidence. So add to cart, so raw add to cart conversions were 384 and 389. So from an add to cart perspective, people who got to the page relatively acted the same regardless of how they got there. So the add to cart was there was a marginal lift that wasn't confident whatsoever, so that's kind of a wash right there. So add to cart, nothing crazy is happening there. Okay, and then now getting into the actual confidence level for the DM Lab purchase, where we had 79 purchases versus 110. This is a 1.01% conversion rate, plus or minus 12, so about a 40.7% lift at a 99% conversion rate. So that was actually we had a sizable lift there, and we launched that, made that live almost immediately. All right, so results in short. The link to the DM Lab offer saw a 40.7% lift in DM Lab sales at a 99% confidence level. Okay, analysis. This is really kind of, again, digging into why this was the case. Really not surprised that we saw more clicks, more page views. What's interesting is the add to cart conversion rate. People who hit the DM Lab sales page were either 1, not expecting to see the sales letter, or 2, were expecting more information about that individual EP. Despite there being no relative lift between each variation's add to cart rate, the linked variations saw more DM Lab sales, and that's probably just likely due to the number of people purely hitting the page at that point. So other observations that we note is that even with a sales letter with visitors weren't prepared to see and didn't highlight the content they expected, we saw a 40% increase in DM Lab sales. Of the 2,375 people that got to the sales page, only 389 added to the item to the cart. There's a lot of opportunity here. So we can actually start working on that sales letter page to try to get them to add to cart more frequently. So that actually shows us that where our hole in the funnel is. It's not on getting people, it's not the homepage moving people to the actual offer, but it's actually working on the offer page itself, okay? So that actually gives us a new iteration on a different page. So we can actually move off of the DM Lab page if we're so inclined. Next steps, again, very kind of prescriptive here. Make the variation live is a standard one. And so we should try a variation where we match the message between the image and the landing page was 1, or moving on to the actual offer page itself. And to kind of finish this iterative process from our report, we saw a deep page image test here, and this was ran for 5 weeks. And we actually changed up the image at the bottom of the page, where we believe that changing the EP image below the fold to something with a definitive offer that matches the landing page for all visitors will decrease overall clicks. So that's kind of a bummer, but increase DM Lab sales. So the clicks that hit that will be more qualified and more likely to add to cart. All right. So originally what we wanted to do, so we replaced the different execution plans with just a standard offer. As lab members get instant access to every execution plan, including, and we listed our top 3 there. Originally what we wanted to do was map each one, but we had technical limitations, and as we all know, in the ease category, if we can't easily create this test or easily make it live, it doesn't matter what sort of lift we could possibly see, because we'll never actually get it off the ground. So we made a compromise and tried something new, where we actually just offered DM Lab again using an image rather than using teasers of the execution plans. So here are the results, where our execution plan image, so here's just our traffic, and so we actually end up seeing the EP image standard actually beating out the new matched offer. We expected to see a decrease in clicks. Completely expected to see that, but we were hoping that they'd be far more qualified, when they really weren't. The add to cart conversion rate was up there, and then the relative lift, 18.6 at 89% confidence rate. There's still a higher margin for error there, but overall we just were disappointed with this with the outcome here. But we really were under the impression that yes, under that new matched offer, we would see higher qualified clicks, which really wasn't the case. So results in short, we saw a 27.8% lift in clicks at 99% confidence, 10.8% increase in add to cart at a 94, and an 18.7 lift in DM Lab sales at 89. So we probably could have run this test for another week to see if that would even out, but we actually were taking a look at the normalization process, and that ended up being about what we expected to see. There wasn't going to be much of a change, which I'll dig into in just a second. So the analysis here was the challenger image in place of the execution plan library performed poorly for all 3 measured metrics. Despite the message mismatch between the clicked image and the landing page, the add to cart rate and purchase rate still beat the challenger. All the data normalized over the timeline. So here's the data points here. And so this is, again, this fits under the analysis section here, where we have landing page views, add to cart, and then our actual purchases. If you notice here, not a lot is changing over time anymore. We ran this for 5 weeks, so there's nothing really to point to us that would be outside of the scope of the test, like maybe an untested set of traffic coming in, that would alter really what's going on here. They broke apart, they normalized, and we had no reason to believe that there would be any changes otherwise there. So some other observations: visitors didn't like the image, very few actually clicked it, despite having a singular call to action. People like to see what they're getting, and that's what intrigues them. They don't just want another blatant offer on the page. So even though it is kind of that message mismatch does occur, people are getting a better understanding of what's involved in the product rather than just being asked to buy it once more. So next step, keep the link DP image on the site. We don't need to test images here anymore. Let's stay above the fold and focus on pages that contribute more to sales. So we wanted to actually start moving further down the funnel, which would actually lead us to kind of move into those offer pages in the cart. So I really hope that me showing you kind of how we look at our split tests and this type of report will help you out from a presentation perspective to clients and bosses, and also an internal housekeeping perspective. So you will be getting this PowerPoint, and hopefully you do use it. Change out whatever you need to. This is just our standard, our standard style, and really enjoy. Okay.